meeting of October 1st, 2025 at 5 p.m. I am Deputy Mayor Ed Stern. I'm filling in for Mayor Becky Erickson, who continues to have to make a priority of family matters. The first thing we do is our land acknowledgement. Poulsbo is committed to being a welcoming, diverse, and equitable community where all people can access tools and opportunities to improve their quality of life, allowing them to reach their full potential. During its meetings, the Poulsbo City Council will use this particular lens to inclusively view its discussions and actions. And I'd like to call on Councilwoman Britt Livedall for the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Poulsbo is located on the ancestral lands of the indigenous Suquamish people, for whom this place was known as Tuk-Tuk Lots, or the land of the vine maples. Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hallowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished. Chief Siacht, 1854.
Thank you, Councilwoman Livedall. If you'd all join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is going to be public comment. Oral comments can be made in person. Please. Oh, excuse me, the agenda review. Tonight we have a consent agenda. There's nothing on that. We have a business agenda, items A, B, C, and D. There is the workshop agenda, but there is no amendment to it, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Deputy Mayor Stern move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Second.
From Councilwoman Livedall. All those in favor, or are we going to do a round the table on this? Round the table, and I will note for the record, Councilwoman Crowe is absent and Councilman Tabor is joining us remotely up on the screen. I will call for the vote. Mr. Newell.
Newell, aye.
Eckert, aye. Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. And Mr. Tabor, aye. Now we'll move on to public comment. Thank you. Oral comments can be made in person. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by council. As a rule, the council will not respond to public comments. Written comments can be emailed to the city clerk by 2 p.m. the day of the meeting, and they will be distributed to the council before the actual meeting. Written comments, however, will not be read into the record. So at this point, I'm going to call for public comment. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please come to the podium, state your name, place of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Leanne Troyer, and I'm representing the residents, Poulsbo residents on 11th Avenue concerning the sewer project. We would like to make a plea to the city to cover the cost of running the sewer up our street. As we are tax-paying citizens, we have been paying sewer penalties for years without it being available to us. And it's not as if we aren't going to be paying anything. We do still have to, we know, to pay the connection fees. We still have have to hire our own contractors to run sewer lines from our homes to the street and fix our driveways and everything again. So just we'd like to be heard and would hope that the city would consider covering the cost of the running the sewer up our little forgotten street.
Thank you. And that is duly noted. Again, I'm going to call for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the city council, please come to the podium, state your name and place of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes. Calling for public comment. And calling for public comment a last time, and there'll be an opportunity at the end of the council meeting for public comment once again. And not seeing any additional public comment, we'll close the public comment. We're going to move on to mayor's report and council comments, and I'm going to lead by reading the proclamation that is before us at this time that has to do with the American with Disabilities Act. Proclamation. Whereas the city of Poulsbo is actively involved in the implementation of the Americans with Disability Act, celebrating this historic legislation, the most comprehensive civil rights legislation in the world for people with disabilities. And whereas the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, provides an anti-discrimination protection for our nation's 61 million Americans with disabilities and recognizes their right to be integral, contributing, productive, and valued community members of our country and state. And whereas people with disabilities are an irreplaceable resource, and we cannot morally or financially afford to lose the contributions that this untapped workforce brings, not only to the workplace, but also to the mainstream community life. And whereas the city of Poulsbo, in partnership with Kitsap County and other public agencies, and with the cooperative assistance of numerous civic and nonprofit groups, can look forward to a continued expansion of employment opportunities for the greater acceptance of people with disabilities in the competitive labor market. And whereas by joint resolution, the United States Congress has designated October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the city of Poulsbo, and we ask you to join us and all citizens in recognizing this important initiative. Thank you. And I do have one anecdote I will share with my colleagues on the American Disabilities Act. When I first came on council, Carol Jones was our city clerk, and she was designated by Mayor Mitch Mitchison to be leading the effort on the implementation and improvements phased for the American Disabilities Act. A lot of that work started with curb cuts and sidewalk cuts. Mike Lund will remember that. It was my second finance committee meeting, and Carol Jones, in her enthusiasm to implement the ADA with the new city council, wanted us to personally understand the difficulties and challenges that disabled people have to live with. So at the finance committee meeting, one was given earplugs, one was given non-translucent ski goggles, and one had their hands disabled. I was the one couldn't read anything for 2 hours of finance committee, and I thought, this is off to a bad omen for me to understand the city budget. But I assume there was no ill malice. But I didn't learn anything from that first meeting except the passion and the commitment that the city brought, not only as a city, but its employees in carrying out not only the charter of the American Disabilities Act, but the intent behind it, that we should all understand and support our disabled. On that note, I'm going to go around the table and call for council comments. I'll start with Mr. Newell.
Nothing tonight.
No comment. Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, I really appreciate this proclamation this month. There's a lot of efforts in the city. My son has benefited from this. A lot of kids go through the school and then up through the under 21 program. It's called Step Up. And that program, there's a lot of businesses that work with those kids to help introduce them to the workplace and then find jobs afterward. Various agencies, both state and then companies that work with them. We have a lot of companies that participate. They do good work. I've mentioned in the past about Fishline is one of them, having kids into the second season store to kind of work in the retail environment and learn. And so I just really appreciate the businesses that go above and beyond to participate in these programs, because it's really important for these kids. And some of them don't have family that's going to be around with them to take care of them long term. And so they need this. And so it's really important. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. Thank you to our citizen regarding the comments on 11th Avenue. If you have not connected with our staff about that project yet, I would encourage you to do that. I noted on the way down tonight that with the deluge of rain, we have a lot of clogged storm sewers with leaves over them. So I would encourage people, it's in your interest, in your neighbor's interest, in the community's interest to clear away those leaves off your storm sewers. And we're in fall. It's storm season. Puget Sound Energy has some great information about how to prepare for power outages, be it candles, extra food, water, etc. So I would encourage all of our residents to be prepared for storm season because it apparently is here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. Ms. Livedall.
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Tabor is attending remotely. Mr. Tabor, what do you have to share with us this evening?
No comments from me for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Tabor. I think it'd be amiss in my quick comment not to note that the Seattle Mariners have made the playoffs for the first time in a quarter century. And before that, it was probably close to a quarter of a century. And it's something we should all acknowledge. Some of you might be familiar from watching the games that our dependable left fielder, Randy Arozarena, wears one of the biggest chains in baseball. And I want you to know I'm here to provide competition. And I'd like to see him outdo me. So I'll be enjoying wearing this for the remainder of October, and thank you all for your understanding. On a more serious vein, I'd like to call out a special thank you and recognition to our League of Women Voters, who began operation in 1920, right after the implementation of the Women Have the Right to Vote Act, finally, the suffragette movement in the United States. And since 1920, they have been committed to broadening understanding of voters and the democracy and how it works. And they have been sponsoring for years throughout this state and all the states, the debates and public education that goes along with not only how our government works, but its very important election cycles. They sponsored last week a debate of our city council candidates that are up for election in this cycle. Tomorrow night in this room, Mr. Whedon and I will be debating on the question of the next mayoral election. And again, much thanks due to the League of Women Voters and their commitment up and down the county, up and down the state, and up and down our country. It's more important than ever now that a lot of our news and education comes from social media, and too much of social media can sometimes be an echo chamber, which reinforces the views we already hold or the beliefs we see. And their commitment to broadening that and doing it hands-on, in person, and doing it locally is a great antidote to broadening awareness and increasing participation in our democracy. So again, a shout out and a thank you to the League of Women Voters. We will now move on to board, commission, and outside agency reports. I'll turn to my left and start with Mr. Newell. Nothing there. Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, I went to the school board meeting last week, just briefly, and shared with them the results so far of our speed camera on Knoll Road. Just a number of tickets it's produced. Just to give folks an idea and remind that this is not to generate revenue. This is to get people to slow down and be safe. And the number, just in the months that camera has been operating, is in excess of 400 tickets.
Wow.
So to remind folks that those cameras don't kick in until you're going 11 miles an hour over the speed limit of that road. And so that means over 400 folks are speeding past the elementary school that fast. So please slow down. We'd love to give no tickets. We'd love you all to be driving safely, especially past the kids.
Only the schools being lighted there, but we subdivision over the last 5 years. That's and not on is very heavy. And that is that our school. So, yeah. Right.
And we all 15 of this year's guidance for tourism grants. The 15 apparently for the city. We had tourism grant requests in the amount of approximately $1 million. We have about $370,000 available to award. So your LTAC committee will be working very hard in its next meeting next week to make some decisions on those funding requests. The good news is we have a really solid committee, quite a few experienced committee members. We do have a new chair. I'm not quite sure about him, but we're working well together, I think. And each of the applications, somewhere around, I don't know, 8 to 10, some of them were 15 pages. So it was quite a bit of reading, quite a bit of work, quite a bit of discussion, but a lot of really good projects being proposed to draw tourists and visitors to Poulsbo. So I will look forward to reporting back to you when we've made some of those funding decisions. And given the amount of work the committee is putting in, I will appreciate your support when it comes time to discussing and looking for council's approval. So thank you for that. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. McVeigh, you got a heavy lift this year. Fortunately, you have a strong and experienced Lodging Tax Advisory Committee membership to back you up. And it's wonderful to hear that we're at record numbers of interest and applications. That's exciting. Ms. Livedall, any outside board? Mr. Tabor, any outside board recommend? Nothing to report there. I have two quick ones. Number one, we have discussed as a body these last 6 months, as we did with the Highway 305 working group, that Highway 307 from Bond Road up to Kingston and the 104 intersection bears looking at because of the amount of increased traffic, let alone development on its shoulders. The first meeting of the Highway 307 working group was last week in these chambers. We had the County Public Works, County Commissioner. We had members of the City of Poulsbo. We had the Department of Transportation. Our own City Administrator, Rob Gilder, conducted the meeting for us and took the notes. Anything you would add as a highlight? I know it was basically an organizational meeting, Mr. Gilder.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, it was our sort of inaugural meeting. It's a little bit different and compared to the Highway 305 working group in that we don't have funding that's actually appropriated, but we're starting the conversation. And really the conclusion, and we also had transit and Squamish tribe representation at that meeting as well. The conclusion was that we need to have a little bit more data before we can really effectively define the problem that we're trying to solve. And then be able to leverage that information, that definition of the issue to seek funding, possibly for a feasibility study that would take it that next level, and then potentially identify solutions ultimately for that corridor.
Mr. Ecker, Mr. McVeigh, I believe you were there. Anything you'd like to add as far as 307?
I just said I'm very glad that we finally started the conversation. Because as Rob said, right now it's a nebulous problem that we need to decide how we want to try to solve, and till we define it, we can't really work on solutions. And a lot of the obvious, easy, oh, that's how we solve it, they're neither easy nor obvious nor possible. So we're going to be working on this for a while, I think, but got to take the first steps. So
one thing that I want to share with my colleagues who weren't in attendance, the county emphasized that their longtime public works yard that is adjacent to Big Valley Nursery on the road there, that is going to be surplused in short order. And given the state of the county's budget, they would rather deal with it sooner rather than later as surplus property. There was a discussion about highest and best use versus the resale value versus the city. But there is an opportunity there either in the public or private sector, but it's going to happen in relatively short order. So for all of us to keep our thinking caps on and keep a perspective on that. I'll move on. The last thing I just want to note for the record, I am serving on the Olympic College Presidential Search Committee. We had our first meeting last week. We met with the consultants that are going to be hired to solicit and winnow down the list of applicants. Currently, Joan Hanton, many of us are familiar with her, is the interim president and will be for 12 months, but she is not going to be the full-time president, does not desire to be the full-time president, but it does at least give us a number of months as a runway. And so that work is now being undertaken, and I'll report back from time to time on that search committee work. Question?
No, sorry, I forgot something. Please. Just so everyone knows, and Doug and Britt, we're going to be setting up meetings of the ad hoc art committee over the next couple months. The committee is going to be working with Parks Department and specifically the pollinator group, for some projects that they have going on, along City Hall. And we're going to try to contribute from the council some ideas, and that we will then bring back to the whole, to do a little beautification of City Hall as we encourage pollinators and do some work specifically along this side of the building. So,
Okay, great.
so look for invitations for Doug and Britt, and then we'll be continuing that effort.
Good. We are going to move on. The next is our city administrator and department head comments, and we'll start with our city administrator, Mr. Gelder.
Thank you and good evening, council. Wanted to let you know, as one of the big headlines today obviously has been surrounding the federal shutdown, or the impacts of that. Let you know that we have not identified any immediate impacts to us locally, but it is one of those things that we'll continue to monitor, as there are often some downstream trickle down type of effects that we may not be identifying at this point in time, but just wanted to let you know that we're aware of that. The other piece is that last night we had our first parking open house, specifically around enforcement. So we've had probably about a dozen individuals in the room asking questions of our contractor Laz, trying to understand sort of when it's going to happen. It's scheduled to start on November 1st,
Okay.
Which is that Saturday. It was providing a lot of information about how do you sign up, how do you create an account for your business and sign up your employees to get them registered. Very similar to the email that council should have also received today. If you need to park downstairs during the daytime, please register your vehicles as well. We're asking the same of all of our employees that work predominantly out of here, and anyone that sort of comes in and out, so that we can be incorporated into the system as they deploy a license plate reader for that enforcement. So we have one more of those open houses coming up on the 21st of the month. The next topic really is one that will end up probably impacting our budget, but is yet to be quantified. And that is, we are starting to see the impacts of the public defense caseload standards. You may have tracked that previously, where it was through the Washington State Bar Association and then affirmed by the state Supreme Court about the reduction of caseload that a public defender can carry, which has a direct impact on us. So as we contract with the county for those services, we will need to navigate sort of what those thresholds are, because we've had generally the benefit of having one dedicated public defender. If that individual reaches those thresholds, then we will have to most likely contract for it. If the county cannot provide backup to that, we most likely will have to contract for additional public defense support as well.
Question, Mr. Geller. On the downtown parking enforcement orientation, I'm calling it, it has to do with enforcement. That's on October 21st?
Correct.
The time and place.
It's here in Chambers from 4 to 6 p.m.
4 to 6.
Mhm.
I imagine the interest will build because, like all of us remember when we were in school, we always did our work well in advance. Not so much, kind of a deadline. And I imagine the interest in understanding and being oriented for the parking enforcement program, that interest will be building throughout the month.
It will, and it has. We've had some just general inquiries from not necessarily business owners, but residents in town, wondering sort of how and when that is going to unfold. But Laz, our contractor, has also been making direct contact with businesses to help navigate that. So trying to add that little bit more of a personal touch to sort of getting onboarded.
Good, thank you.
And then the last one that I would just offer is that we do have confirmation of a joint meeting on the 22nd of the month with the port commissioners. So I will send out an email to council to solicit any ideas that you might have for agenda items. I'll be working on that with James Weaver, the port manager, so that we can get a consensus around an agenda that will guide our conversations on the 22nd.
That completes the report. I might turn for a moment to our colleague, Councilman Tabor, as our liaison to the port. Any questions, thoughts, inquiry, Mr. Tabor, regarding the joint meeting of the port later this month with the council?
No, I got the email invite to that, and I had the pleasure of meeting with the new port manager, and I'm looking forward to the city and port relationship, and I'm excited for what's in the future.
Great. If we develop questions or thoughts that we might want to share and explore at that meeting, should we turn them into Mr. Tabor or yourself, Mr. Gelder from council?
If you could turn them into me, and then I will work with James Weaver to actually pull together a draft agenda.
Thank you.
And I have one question for Rob. In your research before on the public safety tax, did you know, is public defender something that could be covered potentially by that tax?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So it might be something when we come back together and discuss that, might be include that in. And I think I declined that meeting because I'll be out of town, but I didn't actually check times. So I'll check back and see. It might be possible for me to remote in depending on when we actually timeline.
It's 5 to 6:30 here in Chambers on the 22nd. If that does work, we can work to see if we can facilitate a virtual component to it.
Any questions for Mr. Gelder? Not seeing any, we'll move on to Public Works Director Diane Linnaeus.
Good evening, Council. I just had one thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to acknowledge the concerns from the citizen that lives on 11th Avenue related to sewer costs. We are aware that the 7 people or 7 residences along that road are concerned about the cost. And Charlie met for the first time with the property owners and shared how the project would go, and also a little bit about how costs are allocated. We haven't done any design, so we don't have a formal cost estimate for the project. But typically, the property owners would pay a proportionate share of the sewer line down the roadway and the restoration, and they would also pay connection fees. That's very similar to what happens when a developer installs a sewer main. They pay for that and they pay for connection fees. It's not a surprise that citizens are concerned because sewer is very expensive. And one thing that we are doing is we've asked our attorney to look at the code and just make sure that we are assessing cost accurately. And we will go back to citizens when we have some better numbers. We do plan to go ahead with the survey so that we can do a preliminary design and then have a better cost estimate and get feedback from our attorney. There really isn't much flexibility in how we provide costs to the owners. The one thing that I think is important to know, and I'm happy to talk with the citizen on the break, is those costs based on the method of the city building it and paying for it up front, which is what we proposed. The citizens or property owners pay for it when they actually hook up. So they don't pay up front. Another method is the ULID method where they get assessed over 20 years. This is a pretty small area to have 7 or 8 property owners use that method because the attorney costs to set it up are actually pretty expensive. But we're happy to share that method with them as well. The driver for why we recommended that the city pay the upfront costs to make it happen is because there is one system that has failed. Unfortunately, the family has to have their system pumped. They use facilities somewhere else and they need to have it repaired. For them to make the repair is very expensive. And we would like to help them out. We also believe that other properties will have failed systems soon. So we'll continue those conversations and I'm happy to meet with the citizen and do the best we can.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Can you just remind me the the formula, if you will, for what the homeowners pay and what the city pays. That's been longstanding policy. But is that policy totally governed by the city, or are there some state statutes involved?
That's a good question. The RCW drives how the calculation is for the connection fees, which is about almost $17,000, because it's partially what goes to the county for the treatment plant, and it's partially what goes to the city for the connection system. Now, imagine that the cost, I don't know what it will cost to do the sewer, but imagine the individual shares 15 to 20,000 for that. You add that on top of the other cost, and that's significant. Our Poulsbo municipal code says that we have to charge a front footage fee. There's some discrepancy in the code that we want to make sure our attorney looks at. It says that it needs to be 50% of the cost of the sewer. And we need an interpretation to know if that's 50% because you have people on each side of the road, or is that a true 50% of the total project cost and we absorb the rest? And we just want to make sure that we have clarity on that, because we want to do what's right for the citizens, but also what's right per code.
Yeah, I appreciate the update, and obviously, as you're working on this, if there are possible code or policy changes that we need to entertain in the future, look forward to hearing anything about that if it's appropriate.
That's great. Thank you, Councilman.
So I just want to clarify, Mr. McVeigh and Public Works Director Linus were discussing Poulsbo Municipal Code, but you heard reference at the top of the conversation to RCW. That stands for Revised Code State of Washington. Of that, we have no control. That is the state legislature, and that is a mandate that overrides any local ordinance or regulation. Secondly, Diane, would you be the main contact moving forward on questions related to this work, or is it a separate staff person? I know you've offered to meet in the lobby here in a few minutes, but moving forward.
Charlie Roberts is the lead on the project, and he's the best contact. But I'm his backup. I'm everybody's backup that needs it.
Good. So we got those names on the record. And lastly, the approach we're taking, and this isn't the first time we've done sewer hookup work. Did we follow exactly these procedures in past projects? Is there anything precedent setting here?
In the time that I've been here, we have not installed a sewer like this before. So this is new territory for us. And the reason is everyone in the city has sewer, with the exception of very few streets. And those streets had a septic system before sewer was installed in the city. And for whatever reason, we're reaching the time frame. I think the house is maybe 70s or 80s houses. Yeah. So we're reaching that time frame where things start to fail. The thing that's wonderful about 11th is there are some big, gorgeous trees on 11th. Unfortunately, as Mike knows, trees and sewer systems or drain fields, they don't really go together. The roots just wrap around them and destroy them. And I'm surprised that it's taken this long for us to have one failure, but yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Diane?
I've been hanging out with Robin and with Heather, so I'm going to be quiet and maybe they have more stuff.
Great. So we'll turn to our Planning and Economic Development Director, Heather Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stern. Good evening, council members of the public. I'm just providing a staff update this evening. For those of you that wander around our department, you've noticed we've had one missing body with Ashley Weller being out for maternity leave. She did return last week on a part-time basis, so we're welcoming her back. You may have noticed that another desk has been empty, and that's Tiffany Simmons, our administrative assistant and our GIS coordinator. She is now working remotely on Whidbey Island, and she will continue to work with us, and we're expanding some of our opportunities to reach our department. We are now offering a text option to reach the millennials and Generation Z. So I wanted to share with the public that you can now reach planning Monday through Friday via text from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 360-994-0240. This is a new option that we're providing because I have learned, and we've all learned those generations prefer text messaging. And we thought with Tiffany working primarily remotely, this would be a good opportunity for us to expand our options for people to reach us. We're also exploring a drop-in counter hour, and we haven't set those times up yet, but that's to come. And this information will be in our monthly spotlight for those who didn't get a chance to write that down. With her working remotely, we are shifting seats a little within the department. We worked with an office clerk, Susan Monroe, who supports the engineering department. She works part-time, but she will be serving the planning department for additional hours each week. And the reason that's possible is one door closes, another one opens. As we know, Carla Boughton, she was our casual labor. She is no longer serving this city. We may be able to retain her for a few items here and there. She is wrapping up her impact fee work for this city. So you will have the benefit of the work that she's done when we start those conversations with you later in the winter. But because the casual labor dollars had already been allocated towards that body work, we're shifting some of that. So Susan's providing us additional administrative services. So just wanted to let you be aware of some of those changes in our department. We're very thankful to have Ashley back and to retain Tiffany in the fashion that we're able to retain her in.
Great. Regarding Carla Boughton, who served the city for 30 years
That's correct.
as assistant city planner, and then did an admirable job leading the planning department, and then came back as a consultant to support Heather in the department and the comp plan and many other projects. Is it fair at this point to announce her new position, Heather? Or
Please.
so I'm very pleased on behalf of council to announce that Carla Boughton is the new city planner for the city of Sequim. And she will do them an outstanding job, and I wish her well, as do my colleagues. And she deserves kudos for all the work she's done for us, including through the college marketplace planning, Alheva, and the rest of it. So
The list goes on. They are very fortunate to have her.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll turn to Parks and Recreation Director, Jeff Osmick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stern. Greetings, council. Greetings, citizens, community members. Just a few updates. We had a fabulous skate park opening over at Robb Park that was really well attended. And I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Councilmember McVeigh for his support representing the city, opening the grand opening, and then leading a really good ribbon cutting. We also were joined by Representative Tara Simmons, Poulsbo Rotary President Harlan Harris, as well as Suquamish Foundation board member Rich Delane. And of course, one of the stars of the show was a community member, Eric Payne, who you may have heard his name before, but he led the Poulsbo Skate Park Advisory Coalition. And this park rebuild is entirely community driven and fundraised and built. It was incredible. What was really neat to see, and I'm understating this, was there was over 70 skaters there. There were people from littles to almost retirees, if you will, all cheering each other on, families on picnic blankets surrounding. And then across over in the field, we had another 70 kids playing soccer for the first time. So we're moving those sport programs in-house. And then if you look later, further down the park where Play for All was, there's little kids giggling and laughing and running around. It was a hopping park on a gorgeous day. And it's love our community. I love what we're all able to do. So a big thank you, Councilmember McVeigh, for leading that off. Two other updates. Daffodils procurement is happening. So big shout out to Valley Nursery for their continued generous donations for daffodils. I'm going to leave it at that. But we're going to be planting lots of them. I'll say thousands. And then the other component is Railstar. You heard about, they have started the Waterfront Park Pavilion assessment. So they were down there Monday. They're going to come back on Monday. And we walked a couple other future projects just to get their eyes on it so they know. And then I have some great news to share. And maybe I need to stall for time while they load this photo. We received notification from RCO, the Recreation Conservation Office, state office, of a grant that we're awarded in the sum of $291,000 for the perk. So I want to give a shout out. Carla Boughton helped tee all that up. And then we were placed at a certain level for funding on that. But if we're paying attention to state funding levels are not in great shape. So we weren't going to get anything. And through continued conversation and showing different projects, we were awarded 291,000. So we're working with our partners in engineering on next steps regarding this, but we're very, very pleased regarding about that funding level. And that completes my updates, Deputy Mayor Stern.
That is tremendous news to the council up here. Music to our ears to hear the funding and the level of it, especially in the environment of the budget stringencies from the last session and will only be heightened in the coming session. So kudos. I see our own Mike Lund is here. Mike, would you address us?
I would love to. First, I'd like to mention what Councilman McVeigh was saying. Yes, it is storm season out there. We've had our sweepers out all week long, and as fast as we're picking up, the leaves are coming back down. So everybody, if you get a chance, keep those drains clean. I was planning on coming tonight to give you guys an update on our waterfront park project, and I am going to give you an update. No, if I can find it. Hold on. There we go. There we go. So our waterfront park project, as you know, we just got started last week and actually got started Monday and removed the concrete down there. And so in the area of the park, these trees, as you know, the plum trees came out and the concrete that's within this area here was being removed. When we came in this morning, so here's the existing concrete and the existing trees, and you can see how the concrete's up and around some of these trees here. And this one in particular. When we came in this morning, we had, this is the southernmost tree, was laying on its side. Like your expression, Brett. So yeah, it fell over last night, sometime over the night. Luckily, nobody was injured, nobody was hurt. As we, when we removed the concrete, you can see how root bound that tree was and how that concrete girdled, or the tree girdled the concrete here. And this is the root ball. There is basically a non-existent root ball on that tree. So the only thing that was holding it up for all these years was basically the concrete. We have 2 other trees in the area that were wrapped with concrete that we're concerned with. Obviously, these 2 others, I believe they're called sycamore trees, or otherwise known as London plane. Kevin McFarland will be here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to take a look at these trees and see whether they're safe to stay or whether they need to come out. So we will keep you guys posted and updated, but yeah, we got the south end of the parking lot, or south end of the park closed and a section of the parking lot closed off right now, just so if something does happen tonight with 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts like they're talking. Anyhow, that's my update.
This lived on.
Well, that makes me really sad. I mean, I'm glad that no one was hurt and that happened in the night, but it's always for me really sad with these big trees. We can't buy time to grow trees, you know, and they become fixtures. So I know that we've in Waterfront Park somewhat moved away from replanting trees that get as large as these do, but I feel like in the future, if we don't plan for some trees, it's not going to be the most hospitable spot without shade. Like, and I know we can't make things grow faster, but I think we need to be planning for
We'll be looking into it.
Okay.
Discuss with planning and talking with the arborist on his recommendations on the type of trees for around here.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Eckert.
I know you said being root bound, the concrete the arborist is coming in. I'd be curious, is it the concrete or is it the fact that's fill and there's a lot of rock underneath? Like, is there nowhere for the roots to go on these trees? Just based on the nature of the park itself and what's under that.
I'll see what he has to say, but I'm thinking it's probably more the concrete. As you saw, it was basically choking the tree off.
Yeah.
The material, when we pulled all that concrete up, it's basically pit run under there. So yeah, it's rock, but it's sandy rock. Roots will go down in and do.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity to see, do we have other issues with some of the other trees down there that we just don't know about? Because like you said, the concrete's been kind of holding them in.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't thought about when this was done decades ago.
Yeah.
And
There was a pine tree right next to this tree that fell over. We took it out earlier this week because it was dying. It was, I don't know whether it was pine beetle or what, but it was.
yeah, I mean, like Rick said, it'd be a shame to lose all the trees down there, but if they weren't the right trees in the right spots when they were put in a long time ago, for now 40 years later, it's better to find out now than, like you said, as they're starting to fall over them.
Yes, I agree. Any other questions?
So I have a question too, and I'll turn to Jeff on this. We have the arborist that was referred to. We have a tree board operating separately than the park commission, and we have your good guidance as director of the department. Do we need to review our codes or other regulatory matters on the question of tree planting, tree growth, and girth, especially where there might be impervious surfaces in conjunction, that we understand better the growth rate of these trees and that we're planting appropriately? And if not, is that something we can undertake through our arborist or the tree board as a special thoughtful assignment?
So I can give a little bit of a, thank you for the question, and give a little bit of a roundabout answer. When we found out, when Mike gave a call today, we already are going to be working with Public Works and our planning department and our tree board based on, you may recall, we finished the urban canopy assessment through the DNR grant. That presentation's being teed up for later in November, depending on what's on the council agenda. It's informed by what species are going to be more resistant to drought and climate change and native species. London planes, sycamores are not. They're actually not that great for this location, but 50, 60 years ago, that wasn't the thought. Those, as Mike demonstrated, Deputy Mayor Stern, you saw the girdling. Those trees grew and then they couldn't grow anymore. It's thankful that it came down now compared to in the middle of the summer if it was a big gust and the concrete snapped. So going forward, being thoughtful on two things. One, the design is actually going to have less concrete on this park. So we shouldn't have those root bound issues. And then being very selective, working with our arborists and the tree board, which has two arborists on it, about what should be planted. When it gets into general guidance for the rest of the city, I would want to talk with our planning department about how that, what their guidance might be. They do confer with the tree board, and the tree board is interested in that, but I wouldn't be able to speak to it at this moment.
Yeah, it's one thing to be reactive, and I really appreciate Mike and the crews and what you're doing. But the lesson learned here is to be proactive and thinking ahead, especially where surrounding landscaping can interfere with the growth if there isn't thoughtfulness as to the growth pattern of the tree itself in advance. All right, we're going to move on. Police Chief, I know you're on the business agenda, but a report for the council.
Just one quick update, Council and Deputy Mayor. The red light camera at Bond and 305 is currently active. So everything's done and the testing warning period has begun. And I want to just comment on Councilman Eckert's observance about the point of these cameras is safety primarily. This intersection, northbound 305 at Bond, is one of the most notorious we have for red light running. Even the contractors that were installing the apparatus there over a period of 3 days, when I went out to meet with them, told me that they couldn't believe how many, every cycle of every light, how many times people ran the red. So we really want to just change that behavior. We've had serious accidents at that intersection. We don't want to see that continue, and we hope that this 24/7 enforcement will help to mitigate behavior going forward. So just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you, Chief. And I don't, it's not on our agenda right now, but I know from personal experience, a far second, but in the batting order of these hot intersections is Highway 305 turning east on Hostmark to get up to the schools. That's a living example of green means go, yellow means go faster, and red means go like hell. So anything else to add? Mr. Newell.
Yeah, hey, Chief, just a question, I guess, from the standpoint of street engineering. My observation when that going northbound on 305, the yellow timing feels short. The minute it hits yellow, I've learned that I have to hit the brakes because of that. I just was curious, when you're looking at it, if somebody could verify that it's set for the right speed, it just feels short. Because more than once, like I said, knowing the cameras there, I'm like, yellow means I'm throwing the brakes on because by the time I hit it, the red light's already turned. Could be just me and old eyes, but if somebody could just verify that light is timed right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And very quickly, City Clerk Rhiannon Fernandez, anything to report? And Information Technology Director Brooks, nothing to report. We're going to move on to the business agenda. Our first item under Business Agenda 9 is Puget Sound Energy Night Work Requests. Mr. Washburn is going to lead us through this. Puget Sound Energy is replacing 2 power poles in the vicinity of the intersection of Finn Hill and Viking, and replacing 1 junction box at Viking and Vetter. And this will be completed under Public Works Property Construction Permits. Mr. Washburn.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, council members. One moment, please. Go to Zoom. Just click on it and then click on it. Click anywhere in the. Click anywhere in the. Here, I'll drive. Oh, sorry. You can do. Nice job. Thank you, council. Apologies for the delay. So engineering is here tonight on behalf of PSE to request approval for night work on Viking Avenue. The proposed work includes replacement of 2 power poles near the Finn Hill Viking intersection and the replacement of 1 junction box further north on Viking near Better Road up here. And the work is being requested for up to 5 nights. It will include a 4 to 8 hour power outage on 2 of those nights for the affected residents. Due to the power outage to businesses and the traffic impact on Viking, we're recommending the work be done at night. So our requirements, up to 4 nights of night work for the power pole replacement, up to 1 night of night work for the junction box replacement. Work hours for this would be 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the affected PSE customers would be notified at least 2 weeks in advance of the job start for that. At this point, I'd welcome the opportunity for any questions.
And I'll note that there is no expenditure of city funds on this project. Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Maybe I missed it, but do we have an estimate of about how many residents are going to be impacted by this?
So I did receive an outage list from PSE for this. It's primarily the parcels between Finn Hill and 305 that would be affected by that, just immediately off Viking.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Eckert.
I had sent you discussion in the corridor along Viking. It didn't sound like it because there's pole, but move forward. Vikings when it comes to sure it's a call, but if we start at least that and start moving some off the pole underground. If nothing else, it would make it look nicer. But like tonight, I'm sure it's better for the utilities and less chance of taking it out. rain, wind, trees, et cetera. I'm assuming they didn't plan that as all. Consider it.
Thank you, Councilman Eckert. I had a chance to talk to our colleagues in engineering about it seems like the main hurdle with relocating those specific lines underground is the voltage is a little too high for what the state allows for underground power lines. Could we incorporate this into a larger Viking Avenue refresh and maybe relocate them somewhere? I think absolutely. And I think we should just have an open conversation about that going forward as we, think more about how we can change Viking.
Okay, is that true all the way down or just in that junction, that area?
That's just for this junction with this night work.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. McVeigh.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Deputy Mayor
Please.
Stern. I move to approve the night work request for the replacement of 2 power poles and 1 junction box by Puget Sound Energy.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any question from the dais? Not seeing any. I'm going to call on council. Mr. Newell.
Newell, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Lived all I.
Mr. Tabor.
Tabor, aye.
And the motion passes. We're going to move on to item number B on the business agenda. Recovery Center Kitchen Build Contract Award. And this will be handled by Diane Linnaeus. Diane?
It was a good question about those power. Can't believe how many of them got hanging there now. It's just amazing.
Be great to have them do sidewalk work.
Yeah.
I have Summer with me. She's our client on this project. She worked on the design of the new kitchen, the recovery kitchen, and I think it would be good for the citizens if she just shares what the kitchen is, what it serves.
Thank you, everybody. So we have been serving meals at the Recovery Resource Center / Recovery Cafe since February. During that time, we have benefited from the partnership with a couple local churches, both in food storage and cooking. So we've been cooking off-site for quite some time. One of the biggest parts of Recovery Cafe is to have food on site, but also to have our members volunteering and engaging in preparing food, washing dishes, and taking leadership roles within the cafe. So we really need to have a kitchen on site to increase that. We currently probably spend 20 to 30 hours of staff time preparing, shuffling food from location to location, getting donations, et cetera. And some of that could be alleviated by more volunteers with an on-site kitchen. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the kitchen and the appliances and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
I'll speak a little bit to the engineering and contract side. I want to let you know that this is Josh and Summer's project. Josh was not able to be here tonight, so I'm standing in for Josh, and they've done a great job. I've spent a little bit of time at the Recovery Cafe and at the center over there in general, and I'm really impressed with what the city's doing. So I'm not sure why this is there, but. So the goal is to construct a commercial kitchen in the North Kitsap Recovery Cafe, where food is prepared and dishwashing is currently done off-site, can be done in this location. This is currently unused office space. There's about 311 square feet. The work includes installing electrical and plumbing upgrades to support the kitchen appliances, some new flooring and walls. Obviously, electrical and plumbing is a big part of the cost for the project. Food will be passed through a window, a nice window into the entry area for people where they can sit. And the new kitchen is compatible with the current arrangement. For a commercial kitchen, it includes sinks with a grease interceptor and a number of other things. The goal is to be complete by December 19th of 2025, and the contractors anticipate 5 days of work. This is what the outlook from our nights in summer. With the pack and it's work. That through our municipal center and September 19th bidders, you know, and open house contractor and look at the space, talk with John and put together is retro instinct to take a look at it. You might through the courtesy bid. It's a little on the high side ballpark for what we expected. So we believe that Capital Industrial, who Josh just checked references on and spoke with about the project, is an appropriate contractor to do this work. In terms of the budget availability, that we estimated, we've got the $76,000 construction contract. We've got a small contingency of $6,396. We've got permitting at $5,000, and we've got some equipment direct purchase at $7,000 for a total of $95,000. The funding sources Kim has arranged for the project include the grant from Healthcare Authority, $35,000, and then also professional services money from H3 Professional Services Fund. And Debbie has indicated we don't need a budget amendment. Those are funds that have been allocated this year from the funding sources for a total of $95,000. So what we would request tonight is authorization to move forward with the contract with Capital Industrial to move forward with this contract.
I have a quick comment and question, then Mr. McVeigh and any others. Number one, as far as a goal on the quality of work, what Public Works was able to do internally at the Parks and Rec building a year ago in that kitchen, I hope our contractors do as good a job as the quality of work our staff did in kind and through labor. So thank you, Mike. And again, shout out to the group. I note, Diane, that it involves outside funding sources, but the question being, it's still a substantial investment in the property. And I'll note, of course, that it is not a city-owned property. We lease it. What protections are there on the investment as far as longevity or recourse to protect the investment?
This is an investment that we make. And it becomes the owner of the building owns the improvements at the end of the day. So we currently have a lease on the building. I think that that's a good question to ask. I believe our intent is to stay in the building and continue the lease that's there. I don't know the exact date on the expiration, but I think that that's a worthy question.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Diana, just it is quite a range in terms of the amounts of the estimates we received. So have we worked with Capital Industrial before? Do we know they do good work?
We have not personally worked with them before. They're out of Lacey, but Josh did call their references and they got very good references. April also checked with LNI and they're very good at all the reporting that they have to do. So we have confidence that they're capable of doing this type of work.
Okay. All right. I would be happy to make a motion.
We have a question from Mr. Newell.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, just following up with Deputy Mayor Stern was asking from that standpoint. I think it might be appropriate for us to understand what the lease states. Also, if there's any requirement in the lease for us to return the space back to as rented, i.e., is there anything in there that states we would have to pull it back out if we have to return it? And then, a comment on, hey, are we in a 5-year lease or 10-year lease? Or are we still kind of year to year? My memory's a little foggy, but I didn't think we had signed a long-term lease. So I guess it really gets into I understand tenant improvements become the building's owner, but it gets on the back end. Do we have to pull them out, and how long is our lease?
We can definitely look into that. I could probably look that up tonight.
So I guess,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor,
Yeah, maybe we want to table it for now. I agree that
I think those are important things for us to understand.
yeah,
before-
particularly the return to original state question. I
Yeah,
think.
sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
it's
so-
office space, to return it to office space.
I'm certainly supportive of the kitchen concept. I
Yes,
think
so am I.
the cost seems reasonable. I think it's been a good process, but I do think we should get answers to the two questions before we make a motion and pass it tonight.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, I was gonna wait till after the motion because it's my opinion. I fully support this project too. But I mean, I didn't even think about that aspect that Doug just brought up about returning. But I do have a concern. I think it's something we need to start long-term conversation about. This is not the first investment we've made into this property to support the center. I think it's great investments, it's great work. But we are spending money on somebody else's property that they're going to benefit from long-term. And we want the center to be the best it is and to be long-term the best it is. I would hate to keep doing things to this building and then make it to the benefit of the building owner to us not be there anymore because we've done too much to their space and made it that much nicer. So I think it's a conversation we should have, and maybe with the owner, and maybe a long-term lease would be something we want so that we secure the future of the center. So,
Ms. Livedall and then Mr. Tabor.
Yeah, essentially my comment was along the lines of, I mean, if the stipulation in the lease says that you have to pull the kitchen out, that's not great. It doesn't feel good to spend that kind of money. But if we did have a long-term lease in place, then at least we could count on that. So I think I definitely would like to know be reminded of the current lease terms and then find out what the options might be for something with a little more security.
Mr. Tabor?
Yeah, I'm aligned with my fellow council members on this. Just more information and make sure that this is the right decision.
Since it looks like we're going to hit the pause button.
Deputy.
I have the lease pulled up. I can speak to the term, but it's 83 pages, so I can't speak to what it would take to turn it back. But we are in it till 2031 and includes 3 2-year extension options. So 2037.
and I'll move the table agenda item 9B to the next council meeting.
Do I have a second?
Can I make a request, or is now the wrong time? Debbie's upstairs. I'd like to have the opportunity to run up and talk to her. The only reason why I say that is the grant expires in December. And so another week is important for the contractor. If it's possible for me to
I'd be
come
okay
back.
moving it tonight.
Oh, well,
Given the longevity of the lease.
I withdraw my motion. Well, I'll request is that we move this agenda item to the end of the business agenda and proceed to the next agenda item. Giving Diane time to go talk to Debbie.
Is that okay?
And if we don't have enough information at that time, I'll reinstate my motion to table.
Did we have a second on that original motion, and has that been withdrawn as well?
It had not been
It
seconded
did
yet,
not.
so I'm withdrawing.
I'd like to ask a clarifying question.
Yes,
What more information, Rick, are we looking for from Debbie?
Yeah, I guess
Oh, sorry.
That would be
Go
my
ahead.
question.
back to my question was, is there anything in the lease that states we have to return the space to as rented?
Yeah.
Which sometimes it occurs, you have to pull out installed equipment.
Yeah.
Not always, but sometimes.
I guess I thought given the longevity of the lease, sort of.
Improvements are electrical and plumbing. I mean, this many means more information. And get that time left in the agenda. I think we can absorb the strategic table.
Will second Mr. Eckert's motion.
Well, no. Business
Business agenda complete. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the bid. We're going to address this agenda item going, excuse me, Water Creek project contract award.
I don't have a presentation tonight. We did an RFP for the concrete work down at the project. We opened bids back on September 25th. We were able to get 2 bids. Unfortunately, I was low bidder this time. My engineer's estimate was about 40,000. We received 2 bids. Puget Paving was $42,780.14. And JLC Construction was $47,217.60. So the motion in front of you tonight would be to approve the contract with Puget Paving in the amount of $42,780.14. We have money in the budget to cover this, and we're good to go.
Questions, council?
Happy to
I'd
make.
be happy to entertain a motion if there's no
Is-
questions.
Is the new concrete going to be porous that might help future route
No.
construction?
No. If I ever have anything to say about it, I don't want porous concrete anywhere in this town because it just plugs up.
Okay. I'm just thinking back to the tree.
Yeah, we're gonna have very big tree wells.
I'd be happy to make a motion.
Thank you,
A
Ms. Livedall.
Move to award the contract with Puget Paving and Construction for the Waterfront Park Concrete Replacement Project in the amount of $42,780.14 and authorize the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
Oh, wait, hold
Second
on.
for Mr. McVeigh.
I also need to move to authorize the mayor to sign change orders up to 10% of the contract value.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh, for helping move the business agenda forward.
One quick question.
Yes.
Mike, remind us when is this work anticipated to occur?
Well, we were hoping to start the concrete work in about 2 weeks, but with this tree issue, it may get bumped out a little bit, but
Any question on the motion? Not seeing any, I'm going to call around the table. Mr. Newell.
Newell, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Lived all, I,
Mr. Tabor.
Tabor, aye.
Thank you, Doug.
thank you.
We have the last item on the business agenda, Poulsbo Pump Track Maintenance Agreement with Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance. Jeff.
This is a fairly long update. So the history of this is that the pump track was originally proposed for a variety of uses years ago. And Evergreen came to the city and put forth a use to, hey, we would like to build a pump track in this location. In discussions with Evergreen at that time, they were made to understand the city didn't have capacity to do the full maintenance and the replacement based on how many parks and other projects that we have and limited budget and funding. So back then, an agreement was signed that Evergreen would be responsible for maintaining the park. That means Public Works doesn't have to go down there. That agreement was renewed several years ago, but it is currently expired as of yesterday. So the timing on this works out really well. We've had some challenges at the pump track. You may recall last year, a couple of the porta potties that Evergreen puts down there for the daily use, unfortunately had vandalism and burned down to a pile of just slag. We have also had some illegal dumping, unfortunately, down there as well, mattresses and other larger items. Public Works has come through and put those together. I mentioned both of those because those are the two concerns that Evergreen had was, are they going to be required to consistently replace porta potties if, let's say there's damages to 10 porta potties? It gets very expensive. And what happens, it's volunteer maintained. They heavily rely on volunteers. So what would happen if they had mattresses every week, for instance? So we met with them and their members, as well as their new executive director, Eddie, and Public Works to put forth an updated agreement, got that to Emily. to bring up to standards. And what you have in front of you is a pretty fantastic agreement. We're quite happy, and Evergreen's quite happy with this because the pump track has quite a bit of use. We get positive phone calls and emails from parents and visitors saying they're very glad to see that amenity down there. This agreement covers a couple things that you'll see in your agenda, and I do want to clarify one typo on it as well. We're going to be setting a 5-year term that allows us to go back and forth and say if we need to update it at all. And if it does, we'll just do another 5-year term in the future. It puts together joint coordination meetings, and that's really critical. It lets us put our finger on the pulse. And what you see on your agenda is it says biannual. It's actually quarterly. We talked with Evergreen, and the quarterly allows us to do proactive programming. So we can do after-school programs, youth programs, camps, special events, but we're working together. And if they're encountering different types of challenges, we know on a consistent quarterly basis compared to just being surprised at the end of the year, for instance. The other updates are getting biannual reports on how much use that has. Placer AI, as you may recall the other presentation, we pulled the data for Placer AI there, and it was great to see. The use spikes, of course, during summer, and it drops down during the winter months. The other areas that we've updated insurance requirements, that's true all around. There's a lot of nuclear settlements that are happening nowadays, and they're very comfortable with that being a state agency. And then this next point is they're very particular, for good reason, on ensuring that the land manager of the city is willing to collaborate on grant funding. So the Recreation Trails Program is an annual RCO grant that Evergreen applies for and is usually awarded funding statewide. And that by collaborating with us and having this in the agreement means we're willing to put forth the effort to assist them if they come to us, and that gives them funds to maintain the park. So they can do the park, they can actually put the work in and get it paid for by the state. And then we really wanted to make sure that we define what the maintenance is. Is it expected for them to do X, Y, and Z? And really it comes down to keeping a tidy, clean, safe park and making sure it's inspected to the industry standards, and then letting us know before any work parties happen, because we don't want to be surprised. We want to make sure, hey, you have a work party. We're your partner. Tell us. We have a wonderful parks coordinator. We can do a great outreach on this. We can figure out what our challenges are, and we could bring new community members on. So this agreement goes through all of these. We're quite thrilled. It's been about 9 months in the process to get to here, and they've lost some staff, but we're thrilled with where we are right now.
Mr. Eckert.
So you had event planning there, and I noticed that the contract seems to limit Evergreen's ability to schedule and hold other events there. I didn't see anything about the city. So does there anything about this contract, if we wanted to expand the uses of that park beyond the pump track, if there were other events that wanted to be held there, does this in any way prevent the city from doing so? Do we have to clear that through Evergreen first, or is it essentially it's still ours? They just have proprietary limited use over the track itself.
The latter. Yep. And so, and I'll just dial in a little bit with detail. So if I'm understanding your question, Councilmember Eckert, is it's a maintenance agreement. So we define what the maintenance is. And outside of that, if they would like to do more than the maintenance, outreach, programming, special events, fundraising, it all goes through the city because it's our parks, public property. We need to know what's going to happen there. But it is a city park. So if for whatever reason there was another organization that says, hey, we would love to have a booth there on a half marathon, we would entertain that. It's still a public park. We would be good partners and coordinate with them to make sure there is not something happening. And that would happen in the quarterly meetings. Okay. But it doesn't preclude us from utilizing it. The programming is especially important because we would love to work with them. And we've just started the discussions about bringing them on for programming and potentially using them as a contractor, or seeing if some of their staff can help our staff and we can develop a city mountain bike program in the future. It's still very in the infant stage.
Yeah, I just was a little concerned that maybe if it gave them first right of refusal on something, that I would be a little concerned because it's, it is still the city's park and everyone should get to use it. But it sounds like, no, that's not a factor here. So that I'm happy with that.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stern. Jeff, thanks to you and others for your good work on this. It looks like a good agreement, quite a few improvements. much more clarity. I'm remembering in recent years that I think they wanted the city to run water to this location. Did we do that? We did. So that's all been taken care of. Okay.
Yeah, you want to talk about it, Mike? Here we go.
Yeah, we ran water, probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
It's across and it's just got a yard hydrant and then they just hook a hose to it and
It's working okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay now.
All right. Wonderful. Would you like me to make a motion, Mr.?
I have just a clarification and a quick question. Number one, I think it was under your watch as County Commissioner Rob Gelder that this property originally was granted to the city because it was county property. And I want to acknowledge the county in helping us develop a tremendous asset for our youth. And then number two, and help me out here, Jeff. Did I hear a rumor recently, and I mean this sincerely, that there's the potential of another co-located use for that area by another organization, not interfering with the pump track, but utilizing that area? Have you heard of any?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So what,
Would you please?
for everyone's knowledge, for what Deputy Mayor Stern is referring to is I'm going to just circle back real quick. We just opened up a refreshed skate park, but there's another community group that's looking at building a larger permanent one that has a roof over it. It's a concrete skate park. It's probably a $2 to $3 million project. And they've been looking for, oh golly, 8-10 years, I believe. And last year we sat down with them and said, all right, let's go through all the parks and work with planning and engineering and say, what is a park that could potentially even host this size of an amenity? Fast forward, the pump track was identified as a potential. When that was identified, we approached an advisory group made up of West Sound, not West Sound, apologies, the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance West Sound chapter, that's what I'm thinking of, and talked to their members and said, hey, you have been interested in converting the pump track from compacted dirt to asphalt. It's less maintenance, it's just better runs is what it comes out to be. But there's another group that would love to talk with you and seeing if the property could be a pump track and skate park. Port Townsend and a few other localities have recent grants through RCO that have developed really successful models of pump track and skate park. So a task force was formed and they started meeting to put together a proposal to bring it to city staff that's still working its way through the system. What we found out when we started working with Evergreen's executive team on the state level, the executive directors, they weren't aware of these conversations. So we brought them into the loop on this and they're reviewing the work that the local chapter is doing. And then we just have to get an update from them. So right now, nothing's been promised. It's a pump track. Evergreen's agreeing to the maintenance of this for 5 years. It doesn't preclude future use. If Evergreen would like to entertain in the future, proposing a modification to the pump track to be a pump track skate park, it would come to the city and we would have a discussion.
All right. I'd be happy to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. McKay.
Move to approve the pump track maintenance agreement with Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any question on the motion on the table? Not seeing any. We're going to go around the table. Mr. Newell.
No lie. Eckert, aye.
Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Lived all I.
Mr. Tabor.
Tabor, aye, and thanks for your diligent work on this, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you. I
Thank
think
you,
we've
Council.
taken up enough time that we can wrap back to Recovery Center Kitchen Build Contract Award, Business Agenda number 9B, and turn again to Public Works Director Linius.
Do you want to speak to it or? Yes. Rob will speak to that section of the lease agreement. Thanks.
So your very adept clerk was able to pull up the lease agreement, and on in section 10.4, it refers to the surrender of the premises. So the section 9.2 actually refers to any tenant improvements and needing written approval in advance. So I apologize. This is kind of small and even challenging in my progressive lenses. So it says surrender of premises at the expiration or sooner termination of this lease, tenant shall return the premises to the landlord in the same condition in which received, or if altered by landlord or by tenant with the landlord's consent, then the premises may be returned in such altered condition at landlord's option. So
So then that goes the question, do we have landlord's consent on this improvement in writing?
The answer is I don't know. We just did the contract process, but I can certainly find out. And what I think I could do is meet with Kim and the landlord and assure that they're willing to accept the improvements and that we would not have to remove them. If that's appropriate for council, we can certainly do that.
I think that just for clarity in the future, request it, ask them to say, hey, we're going to return it. And my fellow council members here.
Yeah, what about if we altered the motion, Doug? Would you be comfortable if we?
That's what I was trying to say, but go ahead, you got it.
Okay.
No, that's what I was just going to say. I'm in agreement.
Okay. So do we have a motion you can put up on the screen or?
I have a copy. I got it in front of me.
Okay, go.
And if this does not sound like it would meet the bill, let me know and I'll alter. So move that contingent on receiving landowner approval in writing. Move to approve the construction contract for Capital Industrial for the Recovery Cafe Kitchen project in the amount of $76,603.31 and authorize the mayor to execute the contract and sign the change orders up to 10% of the contract value. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. McVeigh. Any question on the motion on the table? Not seeing any. We're going to go around the table. Mr. Newell.
No, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Lived I.
Mr. Tabor.
Tabor,
And thank you, everyone, including staff, for bearing with us. This was a little bit of on-the-fly due diligence, and I think it gives us a good product. On that note, I'll note we've completed our business agenda. We're going to move on to workshop agenda, but I recommend a 10-minute break. It being now 6:25, we'll reconvene at 6:35, and there'll be an opportunity for concerned neighbors on the sewer question to meet with staff in the foyer during that time. We will stand at recess.
Good job, Deputy Minister. Thank you.
We have a forum of thoughts. Okay.
Thanks for telling.
We're reconvening the council meeting under the workshop agenda item. We have 3 workshop agendas tonight. They will be police department update from Chief Harding. And then we have a second item from the Poulsbo Police, the body worn camera reduction fee proposal and resolution, and then questions and concerns of the council. And again, I'm going to restate at the end of that will be another opportunity for public comment as we had at the top of the meeting. So on that note, why don't we proceed with the first workshop agenda item, police department update. Mr. Harding, Chief Harding.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I've brought Sergeant Dave Hausberg here. He's been running our Marine program. I thought he would be able to give you the most detail for a Marine condition update. We had originally planned to update you on a couple of higher profile cases, but they're still being adjudicated. So we're just holding that update. It will bring it forward as soon as we can, but they're still in the process. So we're going to hold a little bit on those.
Would that be some good news at a later date, possibly, Chief?
I think so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
So the last time I was here, we talked about the mess and I showed you a photo of kind of what was out there. That's been cleaned up. They realized that we were serious about what we were doing. So it went away. Unfortunately, it went to a neighboring town, but it's 5 miles away, so they're following the law. It came down to 1 boat was left. And we did have to take custody of that one. It was kind of dramatic that day, but it got taken care of. And we're currently in the process of disposing that. It has some asbestos issues and some complications that made it more expensive, but we're dealing with that as well. And now we're just on top of dealing with a couple more visitors that have come in just to let them know that we're not letting them stay. And then some abandoned boats that we need to start working on that have no owners that have been out there forever, that were less of a concern because they're not dumping sewage into the bay. So I think we're doing well out there and it's getting better. The problem is pretty substantial, so it's going to take a while, but we're just taking it a piece at a time. And I think we're progressing. So that's the update.
I'm very pleased to hear your approach is so facilitatory and diplomatic. I'm glad they're taking us serious because you are the definition of friendly guardian police culture. On the other hand, they need to understand we mean business. So if we can combine both, that's right on. I do have a question for you, Dave. I noticed in the newspaper series of articles of derelict boats sinking, substantial pollution. I think one was Gig Harbor, another was Sinclair Inlet. That could be happening here too. And so I would direct to my colleagues, and we do have a government relations lobbyist on contract, Brian McGonahay. Are we serious? And Doug, you spoke to it with your boating background about pursuing in the upcoming session or two about more substantial resources in order to fund the derelict boat and other related programs. I know, Doug, you had spoken to the licensing fees, which are pretty minimal right now. Can you remind us where that's all at?
So at a higher level, I think that should be something that we would advocate for along with the other cities that derelict, the funding DNR has to dispose of derelict boats has always been minimal. And there's usually a backlog in that. Unfortunately, it's a tough funding climate and from the standpoint of the state, but I think it should be on our list to advocate for. And one thing might be, an appropriate increase on our license. I can't remember what it was, but it was fairly small on the licensing fee. It's maybe that would be, a couple of years ago, they advocated doubling the excise tax on boats, which would have taken, a typical 30-year-old boat from $800 or $900 to $1,800. The derelict fee was like $10. So, doubling that one feels like the right thing to do, but I think advocating for it, that, it shouldn't be on every local jurisdiction to have to come up with their own funds.
Rick?
Yeah, I think it was $6 is what we talked about last time is what's right now. So yeah, doubling it would only be $12. Is it too early to know if we're going to be able to get reimbursed for the one that you did have to take?
DNR is completely on board with this one, and I'm confident we're going to get reimbursed, and then probably feed that money back into the boats that I'm concerned about listing and sinking, and the abandoned ones that have been out there forever. But right now their funding's doing okay, and I'll stop working probably until July once their funding runs out, so we don't have an issue there.
Okay. Yeah, I had made an email after the our meeting to Rep Nance and just highlighting that it's only $6 and that might be a place that, so that's why I pulled that up. So
Yeah, I think that'd be just part of it. I just remember it runs out most years. It was out earlier. It would seem to be that there should be enough there to handle the big problems, at least.
I think the scale that we're facing, however, if it's a concern because of the number of boats that we have out there that have been derelict for years.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden we had the ability to confiscate all of those and dispose of them, we could run through that money pretty quickly. So it still is a good issue to bring up.
Mr. McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Turn. From a funding perspective, my recollection is our lobbyist, Brian, does work for some other jurisdictions that have marinas. So maybe he might be able to kind of cobble something together with a few of his clients, which might have more impact. And then I'm also kind of along the same lines wondering, has AWC ever taken a position on this issue? Have they ever tried lobbying for it, or is it not enough of a statewide issue that they would get involved with it?
It's a pretty narrow parochial issue. I think we need to grab the bull by the horns. And I think if we as the council are in interest in alignment on this issue, the idea of perhaps asking the city administrator to contact his colleagues, whether it be like City Manager King on Bainbridge Island, there's a city manager administrator in Gig Harbor, and the rest that area, we could tee up the ball perhaps, Rob, in front of the KRCC legislative dinner and present this for discussion, not only among our brethren jurisdictions, but we'd have quite a few legislators there as well. What do you think of that idea, Rob?
I think it's a great idea. We actually, it wasn't too long ago where there was an interjurisdictional letter to the legislature, to the state, specifically advocating for additional derelict vessel removal funding. Mayor Patansu kind of led that charge, and then a number of folks signed onto that letter. It may be possible or time to sort of dust it off and renew it.
Certainly timely with the amount of publicity in the Seattle Times on the sinkings and the environmental damage, and most importantly, for the legislature, the cost associated with that. And that serves me to remind my colleagues, and you got the email from the city clerk this week, the registration for the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council legislative dinner is open right now. I think two of us, Mr. Eckert and I, have already signed up, and I would encourage all of us who can make it that afternoon, evening, to do so.
May I ask one question of Sergeant Hausberg? And that is, he has been participating in a multi-jurisdictional group, specifically around derelict vessels, et cetera. And we were talking about advocacy. There was a conversation several months ago about a definition change of derelict vessel. Has there been a conversation or consensus around that as being something all jurisdictions would like to move forward with? Because we could incorporate that potentially into a legislative agenda as well.
They're making pretty big progress on that. I don't know the exact update. I would need to prepare for that a little bit. But I know they talked about it at the last vessel meeting. And I know it's a big deal, and it would make our job way easier for being able to tag these and not wait so long and deal with them.
Thank you.
Rob, there's also the opportunity, Rick reminded me, the Association of Washington Cities, District 12 is sponsoring their district meeting here this month. So if we already have the tee, if not the ball to tee up, that would be another great forum to put it in front of and just further it. Yeah, great. Dave, Ron, anything else on that topic?
Nope, that's it on that. Thank you. And I'll ask Professional Services and Administrative Manager Kelly Zeman to come forward. She's going to provide the next update. And I just want to call out that Kelly did an incredible amount of work to pull this proposal together. She surveyed all the other cities in our county, found out what they were doing with policy. She drafted a policy, wrote the proposal, had that vetted with our attorney, and then with city manager, administrator, and now is ready to present it to you. And I think honestly, she did a fantastic job, but I'll let her give you the details.
Kelly, welcome here this evening. And I might add before your remarks, I want to give a lot of credit and a shout out to Mayor Erickson working in conjunction with Senator Drew Hansen. When was that, Ron? About 7, 8 years ago, took the lead on body cam virtually in the state and ran it through the legislature. And then the other cities on up to Seattle ran with the ball. So many kudos and thank yous and respect to the city of Poulsbo.
And I just wanted to, Chief, I know I told you offline, but I'll tell you publicly too. It was great to see our officers interacting with our kids at the football game. That's great public relations. Even if one of them just likes to see his picture taken, I know it was the heart was there, and it was a great seeing them interact with the kids. I was up in the stands watching them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
good
thank
public
you.
relations on part
A lot of good
the
response
guys.
from that too.
Okay, thank you, council members. I am here to talk about the body worn camera reduction fee proposal. So it is the Public Records Act, the RCW 42.56, that gives us the legal authority to charge for the fees. Darn it, sorry.
While he's teeing up the ball, I'm going to do a shout out to Doug Tabor. Doug, you might want to get in front of our summit with the port on this question of the derelict boats, fees, impacts, opportunity with legislature. And James and you can maybe noodle it with the Port Commission even before they meet with us later in October. Thank you for the interruption.
My apologies. Now I've got my presentation up there for you to follow along.
Doug, did you want to add something before we get started?
No, sorry,
Yeah.
my connection dropped for a second.
Okay. Okay. So again, it allows an agency to charge a requester for reasonable costs in redacting a body worn camera recording prior to disclosure. So basically, we get to charge the fees prior to doing anything with it. Exemption from fees. So there are certain parameters within the RCWs that allow for folks that such as a person that's directly involved in the recorded incident, their legal representative, whether it be their attorney that they've hired on, or an insurance company that is legally representing an individual who was subject to the recorded incident. Specifically stated in the RCW is the executive director from the State Commission on African American, Asian Pacific American, or Hispanic Affairs. They would also be specifically exempt from being charged fees. So that takes care of the people that really have a legitimate need to obtain. Go ahead.
So Kelly, I'm wondering, why isn't the Office of Independent Investigations that investigates police shootings, why wouldn't they be on that list?
Because this is under the Public Records Act, and
Okay.
they would be considered a criminal justice agency. So just as if we had Kitsap
Okay.
County sheriffs looking,
Gotcha.
Washington
Okay.
State
Thank you for
Patrol.
the clarification.
Okay.
Yes, that's the question I had sent you, the chief, about other law enforcement agencies or other government entities, how they would be handled. And so I was thinking law enforcement, the independent commission, state troopers, and then governmental. I was specifically thinking if Squamish tribe had made a request. And so is there anything, because I was a little surprised the commission that
Yeah, that was specifically stated in
yeah,
the law.
that our tribal governments weren't included in that. So is there anything how they would be handled?
It kind of depends on the situation, but if they were not a party to it and it is not part of a legal action, they would not be exempt from the fees. So why should we implement the fees now? Well, the requests for body worn camera recordings are ever increasing. It's just, of course, as everybody's gotten to know that they're out there, everybody wants them. Approximately 54% of our recordings requested are from non-exempt persons or organizations. We're finding that a lot of these requesters are often monetizing the videos by posting them on their social media channels, YouTube. They're making money off of this. And the time currently spent by staff on the non-exempt requests slows down our response times for those requesters who really have a legitimate need. So it kind of bogs down our system. And we are the last agency. We were the first agency in the county to get body-worn cameras. We're now the last to implement fees for redaction. So how did we develop the proposed fee? There is structure within the RCW that mandates how we come up with this. And again, as Chief Harding stated, I did work directly with Emily, our city attorney, back and forth on this. So she was a great partner with me. Internal review and study of what are actual staff time processing reductions. How much did it take us on average? So we came up with that. That's included in your study that I provided in your packet. We've also compared with other local agencies and what they've established as their fee structures. And I'll show those in just a moment. The root basis that we are looking at is the average staff salary with benefits per hour. That's kind of our basis. So we're proposing to charge it based on $60 an hour. That's prorated to $1 per minute of raw footage. And we're basing it on raw footage because I don't have the staff to do all the calculations ahead of time. It's time consuming to log all of the specific redaction pieces. And quite honestly, we have to review the body cam to even know if there are redactions. So that in itself is taking our time. We'll know that they're not exempt from fees, but we don't know if there's reductions that are applicable. So we're really kind of starting with just a basis of the raw footage. So it'll make it easier for collecting payment ahead of time before we're even reviewing it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kelly, I know our city clerk has had great depth of experience in this field, whether she desired it or not. Is there any communication you've done comparing what the city's been doing on general PRA having to do with emails and text and metadata that is helpful here? Or are you having to blaze in your own way by virtue of it being body cam?
This is really blazing our own way. However, again, we do have a lot of other jurisdictions to model it after, but nobody else in the city has body-worn cameras to, be concerned with. So how will our redaction fee compare? Just as an example for you, I've listed our local jurisdictions. Bainbridge Island, they just enacted it earlier this year. They are charging at 90 cents per minute of redaction time. Bremerton Police Department, they started their program 2023 right off the bat. They did these fees, they imposed fees. They are doing it as we are proposing $1 per minute of raw footage. Kitsap County Sheriff's Department, they just got body cams within the last year. They enacted it again at the same time they brought their body-worn cameras on. Theirs is a little bit of a fee structure. It's based on, essentially it's $3.75 per minute of redaction time. However, they also go into the detail of what type of redaction and how many redactions in each section of the video. It's quite, in my opinion, a little convoluted and confusing, and they have more staff to be able to handle that. And then in Port Orchard Police Department, they brought their fees on about 2022, and they're also doing $1 per minute of raw footage. That's my presentation. I am just open for questions, comments. Please.
Gary.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for the information. I of course read the packet. I was pretty amazed. I was not aware of the situation with the people using our body cam footage on social media for free and monetizing that. So given what you've laid out, given what other departments are doing, it seems like a no-brainer to me that we should be charging for this work. And I would be very comfortable putting it on the consent agenda for our next meeting.
As a council member, I totally agree. And I even have an editorial comment I'll add to Gary's remarks, which is I tend to exercise late at night on a little Nordic track, and I have pre-recorded the Como News, the Cairo News, all of it, right? The Seattle News. And I can tell when it's a slow news day, Chief, because those stations revert to the body cam news. It is no longer news in the traditional sense. It's all body cams that they've scooped together and present as breaking news or other filler material. It's amazing how much of the local news on TV out of Seattle is constituted of body cams.
Will this fee level deter people who are non-exempt and may use this in other ways?
That's one of the things we really talked through, and we feel like it may, because it could be that someone who has been used to, receiving, I don't know, an hour or more of body cam now has to pay for that upfront. They may change their mind. So we're hoping it may help us mitigate some of the burden and the workload.
Charge double.
Great question. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah,
Rick?
I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah, I agree. We should revisit if it doesn't seem like it's deterring, because I couldn't believe we're not charging already. And I have concerns about non-monetary costs for you all doing this. What it's doing to you to have to review all this constantly. So I would very much like to deter folks that are just fishing or worse, using it to their own advantage. I would like to make a suggestion, and I don't know if it's legal under the RCW, or the council will consider it, but I would like to say if we received a formal request from the tribal council of Suquamish or Port Gamble for body cam, that we would not charge our neighboring sovereign nations for that. If it's a formal request from the government, that I think we should treat that as a courtesy to our neighbors. But
so the question is, do we have the authority to add to that exempt list? Where was that drawn from, Kelly?
Those are drawn straight from the RCW.
Okay.
So it doesn't limit who we can exempt. So I think that's more of a
Is that an Emily question?
city.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I
and
think
their
that's more of a
attorneys could
city hall.
access it.
If you would.
The tribal attorneys.
Well,
they're
only-
representing.
only
Under the exempt, if they're involved
If they're
directly,
involved
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're involved. directly.
or if it came through their police department to ours, then that would be another exemption. But it would be something we could explore with Emily.
I'd just be curious, because I said, is in trying to continue and build on our relations with our neighboring tribes, if one of those councils formally requested body cam footage from us, there's pretty good reason, I think, behind it. I don't see it being in the vein of what we're trying to prevent. I would be inclined to want to still continue to.
So in the
provide that
interest of
bill.
fair play, would we be able to create an exempt class of jurisdictional inquiry, other jurisdictional inquiry? Rather than naming some and not naming others?
Well, I'm picking them specifically because they're sovereign nation status. So that's why I'm not saying the state, the county, other counties. I'm choosing them based on sovereign nation status. But again, if that's not possible, or, do we need to hear back about that? That could also be, we could pass this and that could be something to come back later too. I'm not saying hold up for it.
I can also state that in all my years of doing this, they have never requested body cam through the Public Records Act.
Okay.
So not that they never would, but that's not very common.
Okay. Well, if we could find the information out and still bring it back, I'm not saying hold up for it. I'd like to know if that's something that is prevented, if it's allowed, just again,
So Councilman Ecker, are you asking that it come back to workshop or to business agenda? And if it's on business agenda, do you want it on consent or as a business agenda item so we can continue to explore and or modify?
I'm happy with it being on consent. I just like, if we can just get, if the information can be shared at some point.
Kelly, does that work, Chief?
Sounds good.
You
That way it doesn't
comfortable?
hold it up if it takes a while to get.
Okay, thank you. I
Thanks
would
again
appreciate,
thanks again for the.
thank you. I would appreciate that.
All right, we are on to item 10C, which is questions and concerns of the council and incorporates future agenda items at that. Why don't we go around the table? Mr. McVeigh?
I have none. Thank you.
Mr. Eckert?
Well, we start on just if we want to do something with the meeting. As far as I said, that Dina had asked about possibly a city tour, so I don't know.
I will follow up on
Yeah,
that.
if we just, since we have folks coming into our city for the first time.
Why don't we,
From AWC.
Mr. Gelder was acting on that one earlier with both Deanna Dawson and Deputy Mayor Amy Howard. Do you want to follow up with them and offer them a tour on either side that might be convenient for the district? And then that could be extended through AWC. And again, what I mentioned to Doug Tabor while Kelly was teeing up the ball on the body cam, we actually have 3 stars in alignment on the question of derelict boats and a legislative response. We have the upcoming Port Commission meeting. We have the AWC district meeting, and we have the KRCC legislative reception. And so if we can get our house in order and find out who's with us, that's 3 opportunities to present that information in a timely way, well in advance, relatively speaking, of the short session of the legislature.
Yeah, tour wise, I'm just thinking similar to what Diane did for us as new council members when we came on, of kind of the highlights of the city. Some of them weren't necessarily touristy type attractions, but they were certainly things we were proud of as a city. So something along those lines, maybe.
You got a tour when you joined council?
We did. They drove us around
I
and
don't
showed
remember
us
getting,
highlights.
did you get a tour, Britt?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
You joined at the wrong time.
I guess.
All I got was an e-bike that only had 4 forward gears. I
When
thought.
you joined, it was one of those big wheel bikes. in front and the bottom.
Ouch for the record. Mr. Newell, any comment on questions and concerns? Ms. Livedall? I have none. And so on that note, we're going to continue with continued public comment. And again,
Deputy
I
Mayor,
will.
did you want to check in with?
Oh, Mr. Tabor, sorry.
None for me, thank you.
At least we put that on the record, Mr. Administrator. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly comment that oral comments can be made in person. Please state your name, limit your comments to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by council. So at this time, we will entertain public comments.
Kathy?
It doesn't look like the public's here, only veterans, but I don't want to presume on that. And again, calling for public comments. I'm seeing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn or any other continuance for the good of the order?
I second Doug's motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. All those in favor, not in favor, you may leave. Okay, we are adjourned.